is Wilder Show podcast. I noticed, Lauren, I didn't say my name last time. I don't know if I'm supposed to or not. I always say your name. I say, there you are. But I guess I should say, I'm Scott Wilder, and this is the Wilder Show podcast.
I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah, they just as an introduction.
I mean, I knew who you were when I was listening, but
Yeah,
I don't really know.
thankfully.
I don't think I even noticed whether or not you said.
Well, I listen to some other
names.
people that do podcasts, and they make a big deal of their big intro. And I didn't want to do that, but I do want to say, I'm Scott, that's Lauren, this is the Wilder Show podcast. You can find us online at wildershow.com. Email is podcast@wildershow.com. Podcasts drop Tuesday and Fridays at 6 a.m. on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. And Lauren, beginning right now, also on YouTube.
Oh, that's great. I almost said, that's amazing. And then
that's okay.
I remembered
that's
that
your
was one of
verboten
my
word.
Yeah, it's just
But it is
just
amazing.
trying to be a
I'll
little
say
more
it.
creative with my language. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's that's amazing.
It is.
Because
It
I didn't
really
even
is,
know
yeah.
about that, but somebody said you got to do that, so I did. So thank you, Roger. Like, rate, follow. In this case, subscribe, which I know you can do on YouTube,
Right.
And share. So we invite you to do all those things. It's the Wilder Show podcast. It's Wilder Show, and we're glad you're here. Well, we have to talk about the fires again, Lauren. The fires, of course, are ablaze.
Right.
And it is tragic. I got to tell you, it is just heartbreaking to watch all that's going on. But then, of course, we also have to talk about the fact that it's being politicized, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Now, people who, I want to say a word about Donald Trump. President-elect Trump is doing what he does, and it's making people crazy, and I'm going to tell you why it shouldn't.
Okay.
What they're saying, the other side is saying, his opponents are saying, is that he's threatening to withhold disaster relief for California. Okay?
Okay.
If they don't do certain things. Now, I want you to put a pin in that for a second.
Okay.
And I want to talk about something else. It's a good thing for us all to wear our safety belts in our cars.
Right.
And it's the law, isn't it?
It is. It wasn't always.
No, it wasn't always.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going. It is the law. But did you know that that is not a federal law?
I did know that.
Okay. Now, it is not a federal law, but it is a law in every state.
Right.
Do you know how it became a law in every state? The federal government threatened to withhold transportation money for roads, for interstate highways, if states did not come on board with the seatbelt law.
Right.
And today, we all believe that's a very good thing.
Sure.
That there is a seatbelt law, that everybody has to wear the seatbelt. But guess how it came about? It came about state after state after state because the federal government says, if you don't do this, you don't get money for this.
Yeah.
And that's really all Donald Trump is saying. We're not going to keep shoveling money down a money pit. If you guys can't get it together, if you can't figure out how to allocate your water the right way.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, what are the kinds of things that he's saying have to be different if they're going to get...
I don't know all the particulars because they're not even, he doesn't even, well, he probably does know. Maybe he doesn't. But it's not out there. But the bottom line is, this is the way he negotiates.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think we're going to go take over Greenland. I don't think we're going to bomb the Panama Canal. There are things that he does that are, I'm not saying he's lying. I'm just saying there are ways, just like the federal government, to bring every state into compliance about having seatbelt laws. The federal government was just saying, hey, you know what? If you don't want to do it, you don't get money for this. And I think it's right at some point to say to states that have horrible policies that result in, what do you call it, the underbrush, the water allocation, where the water is used, how it can be used, when it's not used. It's tragic to think about. I mean, I don't want to go into it because it makes me crazy about the mother of the blind son who was a child actor, and this child actor died because he was in his home. His mother was there, and there was no water pressure to even hose down their house.
No.
Dead.
Oh,
one of the
man.
28 or whatever the number is, and counting. The other thing about the fires is and I'm not going to get conspiracy guy on this, but a lot of people are wondering, even some Hollywood types who've lost their mansions are wondering whether these have been set, whether this is arson. Early on, it's all climate change.
Right.
That's what the deal is. Now, obviously, you have a fire that is started by a human, climate change and their brush problem, and ecology policies that are poor, liberal policies could all contribute to it being worse.
Sure.
But in terms of how did it begin, if you had 3 fires miles apart, 3 of the fires started essentially at the same moment, that seems like it might not be naturally occurring.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like much of a coincidence.
So, I would just say, life is more like chess than checkers, which we've said before. And I think when it comes to what President Trump is doing in California, or talking about doing, he's not even the president yet, what President-elect Trump is talking about in California is not the wrong thing to do. That if they can't get their policies together, if you can't get, for example, NAFTA, if countries don't want to participate the way they should in NAFTA because they've underpaid all these years, and he says, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Well, they don't do that, but it does bring those countries into compliance, and that's a good thing. And that's not something that you're going to get by just throwing more money to California. And this ultimately is going to be, watch it, it will become a bailout of the insurance companies, and everybody's going to be on the hook. And so does it matter what it'd be easy to say, it's California, let them do what they want to do. No. As long as they do what they want to do and they end up having to pay for it, that's one thing. But otherwise, we're all on the hook.
No, it won't be like that. Yeah.
Laken Riley, right? You know the name Laken Riley?
I do.
The girl that was murdered by the illegal immigrant.
Yep.
Who was in the country, obviously illegally.
Not quite a year ago.
Yeah. And there is now the Laken Riley Act. And the Laken Riley Act passed overwhelmingly in the House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. Like every Republican voted for it. I think 48 out of 216 Democrats voted for it. So about 25% of Democrats also voted for it. And it's an immigration thing.
Okay.
Not to paint with too broad a brush. To arrest and detain those who were even charged with or suspected of thievery for $100 or more. So basically it's saying, hey, if you're in the country illegally, we're not right now going to hunt you down, but you commit a crime, even petty theft. If you steal $101, we have the ability to detain you, to arrest you and detain you. You have now become not just a person who broke a law by coming here and staying here illegally, but you've broken other laws too. Mm-hmm. Now, we were talking a little bit before we came on.
Yeah.
And you said, who could oppose that?
That's kind of what I thought.
Who would oppose that?
You said 26%. I wondered, why only 26%?
Yeah, because it's never been that for them. It's never been that. It was, back when we talked about abortion, they always said safe, legal, and rare. They never meant safe, legal, and rare. If we had presented something to them that would have resulted in safe, legal, and rare, but fewer abortions, safe, rare means few, but safe, legal, and rare, they would have opposed it because they never believed that. And they don't really believe this about immigration. To that point, do you know there are 1.2 million illegal immigrants in the country today that have already been tagged, not tagged like you tag, but have already been tagged to exit the country under the Biden administration.
Okay.
The Biden administration already had 1.2 million that they'd identified as being in the country illegally, and also having broken some of the laws. Some of them are murderers. Some of them are doing all manner of things.
Even something like what the bill says, burglary, theft, larceny, or shoplifting. So even things like that. Okay.
Get them out. Get them out. But my point is that, as is so often the case with liberalism, is judged by what the intent is or how much money is spent on it. Are you spending enough money on, what are you doing for illegal immigration? We're spending more money at the border. Okay, but are we getting people out of the country? Is it about the doing, or is it about the caring? I care to do it. And it goes back a little bit to the California thing. How much money can we spend in California for wildfire restoration? Mm-hmm. It's not about how much money we could spend there. It's about whether that money being spent there is going to be productive to get it done. Are we going to have if you had a foundation of a house and you said, yeah, just keep putting more floors on the top. I know it crumbles every time, but keep building 2 or 3 stories on that foundation. You'd say that's a dumb idea.
We'd never do that.
We're not going to do it. We're not going to spend money. And so Trump would say, you got to fix the foundation before we're going to keep putting money to build it higher and higher. And the same way with immigration, it's not about how much money you spend on these things. It's about whether you're going to get these people, including maybe beginning with the 1.2 million that Biden policies have allowed to come in the country and stay in the country. That's a group that can be added to already the 1.2 million that they have identified and triggered for jettisoning.
Can I say one more thing about the David Muir thing that we talked about last week? Yeah. And part of me doesn't even want to do it because I ended. Well, first of all, we're gonna have to revisit it just a bit. Mm-hmm. So last week when we first talked about the fires. We talked about David Muir and how people,
ABC
anchor, he was on the scene reporting on the fires, and he was out there in an ABC News fire jacket. And when he turned away from the camera to sort of point at the gesture towards the fires.
Look over there.
Yeah, you could see that he had a big clothespin on the back of his jacket. Mm-hmm. And people were so upset. Not everybody, but some people were really upset. You know, it's just a terrible, looks like you're more concerned about the way you look on camera than the fact that that people's homes and lives are being destroyed, just feet from where you're standing.
So we talked a little bit about that, and you have a follow-up?
We did, and I kind of came down on the side of who even cares about that? Don't we have bigger things to talk about, especially in light of this whole story? And here I am bringing it up again.
It's okay.
And you might guess that I'm bringing it up again because a few people came to his defense. The defense of David Muir.
That was my initial thought that we're talking about it again because somebody agreed with your point.
My intentions might not be entirely pure. Well, TJ Holmes, used to be the Good Morning America co-host, said that David Muir is a consummate professional. He understands, though, why this is a bad look in the face of the fires that were burning right behind him. But he said in situations like that, things can move so fast, and that you and I and the people who were, watching on television, we have no idea if there was a producer or a wardrobe person there.
Right.
But assuming that there was, he said things like that are done sometimes without the anchor even knowing. They're looking at the news, they're getting ready for the shot, and somebody's saying behind them, why don't I just take care of this? And they put a big clamp on the back of your jacket. And then, what, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was going to say, I think if we had seen someone else do it, that would have been exonerating for him. But I think a lot of people were just thinking, with trees falling and cars blowing up, they had a camera person there, but they might not have had all the people running in to put makeup on. Maybe they did. Maybe everywhere he goes, if he's in a hurricane, he's got 3 or 4 people waiting to clip his jacket back. But I was thinking that maybe with such a big story, pretty dangerous, they wouldn't be sending the interns out or the helpers to clip the jacket. But I could be wrong. And we don't want to talk about TJ and how much trouble he's been in.
We're not starting a whole, we can if you want, I guess. We used to say it's a 3-hour show. Now we can go on as long as we want. We wanted to, I guess.
But TJ came to the rescue of David Muir, and that's what you were telling.
Well, just to the defense of David Muir. And even he didn't say it's it's 100% the right thing to do. He just said we don't know enough. And you're right. We didn't see somebody else do it, but we didn't see him do it either, or David Muir do it either, and everybody just kind of jumped on that. Got it. And also an ABC Chicago meteorologist backed backed TJ Holmes up on Instagram also, and he posted his story, having a part of his Instagram story that having a jacket, the back of a jacket clipped while you're on location is a standard move with a huge coat. So
just a couple of things about that, or as the kids would say, random. Isn't it weird now that you have a story, and then the reporting of the story is what other people tweeted or put on their Instagram about the story? It's like the whole story isn't that crazy? That becomes news. And but to add a couple of things, what if Muir were a woman?
Yeah.
And what if the woman had pinned her clothes to show off her figure a little bit better in the middle of the firestorm? Would we think that's weird if it were a woman? And this is rhetorical, sort of. The other thing is, what if it had been his bald spot? What if we had seen the covering up of his bald spot? Wouldn't it be weird to be worried about a bald spot?
I don't know. I mean,
as a reporter, if you're out there and people are, trees are blowing up and cars are on fire and I'm worried about I can't turn left because that's not my good side.
Listen, we're getting deeper and deeper into this, and that's how I started this whole thing. And when I was telling you about, the ABC weather guy, the local weather guy in Chicago, he's a meteorologist there. As I was saying it, as I was speaking the words, I was thinking, what does this even matter? Do we even, just like you said, and then we look at who tweeted what. Right. And that drives me crazy. And I don't really, I don't care if people are concerned, if people whose livelihood it is to appear on camera, if they want to make sure that their bald spot is covered, that's okay with me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we have Scattershoot coming up. Remember, the Wilder Show podcast is now also on YouTube. And so subscribe there and share and rate and follow and all that. Wildershow.com is the website. Podcast@wildershow.com is the email address. And you'll find the podcasts dropping on podcast dropping. It's not really a good phrase. The podcasts drop Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central Time, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart, Amazon, also YouTube. Wherever you get your podcast, like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share. And Scattershoot is coming up. Scattershoot is one of my favorite things, as I say, I think, almost every time. And to introduce it to people who have just found us on Wilder Show podcast, or perhaps a friend, hopefully, shared it with you. Scattershoot is sort of just a time Lauren likes to say it's stuff that she knows more about. I don't know what that even means, because she knows more about the other stuff, too. But Scattershoot is what we do right now. So welcome to all the YouTube folks who have found us, and, of course, all the other folks at Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Amazon, and wherever else. But this is Scattershoot.
Scattershoot is kind of like the equivalent of when we used to actually read a newspaper. It was the Today section of the newspaper.
There you go.
That's always the first part I went for. Or when we would read USA Today, I would go for the purple section. That's
I go
kind
for
of
red. Red was sports.
Yeah.
I go blue was news, and then I didn't really care about green that much, but I would go blue, and then I would go red, and then I would go. If there was any left of the purple section from Lauren ravaging it.
If there wasn't anything that I had already told you about.
Right. I would then take the purple section. So, yes, this is sort of the purple section. It is sort of the old Today section out of the local newspaper. And that's really, that's a good way to describe Scattershoot.
My areas of expertise.
See,
I bet you don't give a lot of thought to this anymore. I don't really either. It used to take up a lot of time in my head. Do you spend a lot of time thinking about parenting styles anymore? Well, they're used to, when we were, our kids are not little anymore, so we're not really thinking about parenting styles anymore, but there are a lot more. It's going to make sense to you as I go through these. I've heard a lot recently about gentle parenting.
Parenting.
And I'm guessing this is not going to be something you would have ever really been
either experienced as a young child or doled out. I bet you never dole out gentleness. That doesn't really.
You don't.
I'm going to dole out some gentleness to you.
That's right.
sweet thing.
It prioritizes warmth, compassion, and respect. Not the child for the parent, but the parent for the child. Focuses on a strong bond between parent and child and looking at things from the child's perspective. Okay, this is still that's a really big umbrella though, because you have to figure out, you have to have some kind of boundaries, right?
From child perspective.
Boundaries have to be
Chocolate
set.
cake for breakfast might be good.
You have to
I wanna
figure
look
out.
at it from his
Okay, now don't.
perspective.
It's not really like that.
Go
but
ahead.
It is
I
like
know
you're not supposed to. And there might be people listening right now who really are. They've really grasped onto this, and they take gentle parenting very seriously. And if I get any of this wrong, please feel free to let me know. But I don't think you're supposed to say no. Like you're not ever supposed to say no. You're supposed to maybe focus more on the why the behavior that they're trying to engage in is not right or not safe or not acceptable.
I'm going to say just a word about it. Sometimes, and I'm not being super harsh.
Okay.
I've got a grandbaby coming.
I know.
In less than a month.
Weeks, right?
Yeah, in less than a month. I have a grand. So I know, and they're going to have whatever parenting style that they have. So I want to be careful, but I also want to be truthful.
Yeah.
And tell you that if your kid is about to step in front of an oncoming vehicle, there is not a lot of time to negotiate.
Well,
there is not
of
a lot of
course.
time to talk about the positives of not being run over by the truck that is like 100 feet from you coming at 30 miles an hour.
Of course.
You grab them and you yell at them and you tell them what to do and you save them, and then later you get an ice cream.
Well, I figured, for you and I to talk about this, neither of us having small children anymore, we can learn about all, we might not use these with our own kids, but this might be good information for us to be able to tell our own kids how they're doing.
And to know about. I like to know about. So, but what are these things? Is this
there's
like
gentle
helicopter?
parenting. Helicopter is here too, and I remember helicopter from when my kids were small. But the next one is snowplow parenting. Can you guess what snowplow parenting is?
Is it me?
It's also called lawnmower or bulldozer parenting.
It sounds like it might be something I would be more
leaning
toward.
It's clearing out the obstacles in the child's path.
Well, no, I'm not for that.
So it's like if you're afraid that your kids can't figure out things on their own, that's kind of what that is, and that can become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Let me tell you something else. Ask the cheerleader mom murder trial defendant. Remember, you're clearing out all the competition for your kid.
That's pretty much taking that to the extreme.
No, of course it
I
is.
think,
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, I always felt like that with kids, and this is a much longer scattershoot conversation, is parenting. Somebody actually said, hey, do something on this a while back.
I remembered that.
But part of it is you want your kids to experience some failure.
Yeah.
You want them to experience it where it's safe. You don't want them to never experience failure. Well, you want them to fall down when they can't break something.
Right. And if you signal to them that you think they can't figure out things on their own, you've got to take care of it for them. You're kind of giving them the message, maybe I can't figure things out on my own.
I used to say that, some parents want their kids to feel better, and some parents want their kids to be better.
That's right.
And feel better is easy because it makes us feel good as our kids are, sobbing into our sweatshirts. It's okay. She's a horrible teacher. I don't know why she doesn't understand you. And then you have the be better. See, the problem is if you only help your kids feel better, what happens when you're not there?
They've never really learned how to be better.
If they are better, if they learn to be better, they will feel better even when you're not there.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, that's not real touchy-feely. I don't get a lot back that is pleasant out of being that kind of parent. But my whole thing is not about what I get back. It's about what I prepare them for in the future.
Right.
But other styles.
Right.
You have
That's
helicoptering.
right.
You have...
Well, helicopter is kind of the same as snowplow. It's hovering over them, too controlling or overprotective, but it really doesn't give your kids the opportunity.
A college kid has a tough second semester in his junior year, and his mom is on the phone to the dean of students.
Yeah, that would be helicopter parenting. Definitely. Free range. What do you know about free range parenting? I think we were probably a little more our parents maybe were able to be free range.
Are we talking about the parents are free range or the kids? Because I remember it's like the Jerry Seinfeld thing. He said I don't think my parents even knew where the elementary school was.
That's right. I actually heard somebody talking about growing up in a family of 9, and they said that it wasn't really parenting as much as it was just crowd control.
Corralling, yeah, for sure.
So free range is giving kids the agency to kind of move about their neighborhoods or their city without adult supervision.
That's how I was raised.
Yeah, you know where you live and what your kids can handle. But research suggests that this kind of parenting is linked with better physical health and psychological well-being. What about tiger parenting? Do you remember when that was a big thing?
What is that, tiger parenting?
Strict, demanding, high expectations. There was a book maybe a decade ago, maybe even a little bit, I bet it was longer ago than that, The Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mom.
Oh, my goodness.
It relies way too much on what parents want, not at all what drives the child. Kids with tiger parents have higher stress responses, more anxiety, depressive symptoms, and greater sense of alienation from their parents.
I think sometimes between, the free range is, I understand, and the high demand, I don't, for me, it wasn't like compliance with like getting grades and that kind of stuff. It wasn't like that. It was like to be a good person.
Yeah.
That I did have some demand that you not be a ne'er-do-well and not be a lawbreaker.
Okay, you're gonna like this one. This is the newest. It's a Lighthouse. It's kind of a middle ground, not tiger, not really free range necessarily either.
Yeah.
Parents offer guidance and consistency from the shore. It is a metaphor, after all, while allowing the kids to navigate the waves on their own. And parents only jump in when the kid is really in trouble, not when they just kind of want to control a situation. That is a lot harder than it sounds, though. It still takes a lot of work.
You know what? I think that is the one that I would come closest to. Of course, it's easy to pick any of them now that I'm not responsible.
I know.
To do any of it, but it makes me think of, remember a long time ago we had a conversation about lighthouse. Mm-hmm. What is the point of a lighthouse? Do you remember? Because it is, but in many ways also it's a warning that the shore is there.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the way it works is the light, there's the foghorn and the light. And they are both a direction toward, but also a warning about the rocks that are there. Mm-hmm. And it is the distance. These are the old days of sailing. The old sailors, they would be able to time the sound of the bell or the horn compared to the frequency with which they were seeing the light. And that would tell them how close they were in the fog or whatever. They'd be able to see how close they were. I think Lighthouse is probably the one that I would be. I think right now I'm more in line with.
Well,
probably.
It's easier in the rear view too. When you're not in the middle of it, for sure.
Well, you compare that very first one you said, see everything through the eyes of the kid. Are you kidding me? See everything through the eyes of the kid. The kid doesn't know what's going on.
Well, listen,
the kid doesn't. I mean, honestly, I'm not being mean, but when they're very little, they don't know. They don't know what to eat, what not to eat, what to put in their mouth, what not to put in their mouth. I mean, it's the reason why there's a thing called a choking hazard. But he really likes those little tiny. He likes grapes. Yeah, it's too little. He can't have grapes. He can't play with that. I'm sorry. You got to have the big person perspective to let the little person end up someday being a big person.
I didn't even get to the part that said about a third of parents who consider themselves gentle parents doubt their abilities and as parents feel a lot of burnout.
I think that's probably true.
I do too.
I just think, that's listen, you don't get to be their friend. You get to be their friend maybe when they're in their 20s. But that first part, you're not their friend. You're their parent. And you have and it's a drag, man. There's some of it. I mean, it wasn't for me personally, of course, or for Lauren, but for some.
Never, not even one time.
Not
ever.
Not for
1 minute
second.
Ever.
But it's tough. It's not easy to do this, to be a parent. And once you get on that train, I mean, you're on it for the rest of your life. And once you become a parent, and it's not easy. Everybody would like to be liked more. Every mom would like to have everybody think, everybody thinks we're sisters. Okay.
I think I used to say, if you think it's easy, you're doing it wrong.
That's true. That's exactly true.
Even if your kids are great,
Yeah,
my
our
kids were great.
Our
My
kids
kids
are all
are
great.
great.
Everything's they're all great. They're all
Still
great.
hard.
We must say goodbye to Oprah.
No way. What?
Well,
What do you mean?
You know what?
What do you mean say goodbye?
She's leaving.
Leaving where?
She's leaving the country.
For real, or is she just threatening
no,
that?
for real. I mean, she's threatened it before, but I think now she is for real. Now, I don't know. I don't know who else that means. I have some thoughts, but who else that means might be having to leave the country. Stedman, I guess, would have to leave the country.
I guess so.
But Oprah she says she can't live here. She's leaving on January 20th.
Okay, we'll see.
She's leaving on January 20th. I think a lot of these celebrities, they didn't leave the first time they said they would. But some things...
That was a long time ago.
It was. But
people first started threatening this when George W. Bush was elected, right?
But you think about this, a lot of things have happened involving celebrities in the last couple of years. And so some of those people, I don't know that the celebrities that are leaving, I don't know if they're going to non-extradition countries. I don't know whether they, I've always wanted to go to a non-extradition country. Really, which one? I don't know. Whichever one is the best. But that's really where I've always wanted to spend the rest of my days. So Oprah's leaving, and I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Okay.
That Oprah is going away. And then one other thing that harkens back to a conversation, and boy, it's with some fear and trepidation that I bring this up. Milan. You know Milan?
Do I know Milan?
You know of Milan?
I've never been there. I know of Milan.
Well, Milan is imposing with the beginning of the new year, a 100% smoking ban.
Oh, wow.
I don't mean just in restaurants.
You mean like not even in your home?
I mean anywhere. I think your home may still be okay, but nowhere in public. Nowhere in public.
Okay.
Not on the street, not on the football field, not on any. And these are Italian people, right?
Yeah.
And they smoke all the time.
They smoke all the time.
I mean, young children are smoking. All the free-range Italian children are smoking, running around with cigarettes, swapping little Lucy's, right? Bumming a cig from their second grade buddy.
Swapping Lucy's. What does that mean?
You call cigarettes called Lucy's.
I have never heard that
if
in
you're,
my
loose.
life.
If it's a loose cigarette.
Never, ever heard that in all my years.
Well, the reason is because you're not supposed to sell those individually.
Okay.
And so
that's why I haven't heard it.
So I don't know why
Swapping
you haven't
Lucy's.
heard it. Where you've been. But they would break open a pack of cigarettes, I'm told, and they would sell those individually, which you're not supposed to do. Like selling a one M&M or 1M of the M&Ms. You sell an M. So they call them Lucy's because they're loose cigarettes.
I'm totally with you
anyway,
now.
So I digress. But Milan, no more smoking at all. And of course, we even had, early on, we were checking to see if people had any interest in a podcast. One of the things was somebody even left a voicemail and said, freedom sometimes smells like a Marlboro cigarette.
That's right.
And I would just say a couple of things. Number one, obviously I agree with the wisdom, but number two, isn't it remarkable that exact phrase, that is exactly what we said, what I said. I don't want to give you the blame.
Thank you.
That's exactly the phrase that we used 20 years ago.
That's
20
right.
years ago. Freedom sometimes smells like a Marlboro cigarette. And the point of that obviously is, hey, freedom means it's kind of messy. Sometimes people do stuff. They have the right to do it. You have the right to say bad words that I don't like, and I have the right to say things you don't like, and I can stand on one street corner and say one thing, and you're on the opposite street corner saying another thing, and we're both really uncomfortable, but freedom sometimes smells like a Marlboro cigarette. So that was one of my little phrases. And
I remember.
And I know you do. And Lauren talked about it. I talked about Wilderville and the freedom in Wilderville. It's so great. We don't demand everyone smoke, but if a business, if a restaurant wants to call themselves Smokies and everybody's leathery faced and they all go in there every day and eat their food and smoke, that's the business owners. I mean, I wouldn't go there, but that's the business owners, that the freedom, and Lauren Town was the next, community over.
Yeah. Smells a little bit better there.
Well, Lauren said the sign going into Wilderville was Wilderville, where everyone reeks of freedom. So anyway, I thought Milan. I thought that was really crazy. That Milan, that'd be like Japan or China doing away with smoking. I mean, I haven't been to Milan, but I've been to Japan and I've been to China many times. And man, I mean, everybody's smoking. Yeah. Everybody's smoking. And it smells horrible, obviously, but it's not good for you. Don't do it, kids. But anyway, I just thought a little update on smoking ban, a little bit out of control in Milan. I think they'll probably pull that back.
Do you think so? Do things like that get pulled back after?
Well, maybe. I mean, look at all the stuff they did in Oregon. Oregon, they were, everybody's going to do. Yeah, everybody's passing out free heroin, and everybody's going to shoot up in the park.
That was really dangerous drugs, and
I understand, but I mean, but that's a liberal.
Resulted in crime.
That's how amazingly when they let this stuff happen, it resulted in crime. When you say that to somebody ahead of time, when you say that's a bad idea, that's going to bring this kind of element. When you say that kind of thing, you're thought of as a hateful person. You don't get it. You're uptight, man. You're wound too tight. And then they go down this road 6, 7, 8, 9 months later, a year and a half later, and they find out they've just flushed their public parks down the toilet. Everything has gone crazy because of drugs. And they go, maybe we should rethink this. Let's don't do that again.
None of those things, though. You ban smoking in public places, and nobody worries about the criminal element that's going to come out.
No, I know.
When you tell people they can't smoke at the park anymore.
I know. I just meant that you were talking about, you fall the way you lean. And do we ever pull things back from those things? I don't know. Maybe so. I don't know. Maybe not. And some of those things are good. I mean, I remember flying. I remember being in a plane and the guy next to me smoking cigarettes, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, and it was hard for me. That was not formative, and the freedom sometimes smells like a Marlboro cigarette. I just thought there are some places where maybe it's not a good idea. Movie theater, I think, is probably not a good idea, and we can all come to some agreement, but that doesn't mean you take it to the crazy end result.
Right.
I don't believe so. That's and think about the immigration. Can't we all just agree? Let's kick out all the ones that have already been identified and readied for exiting, but they're still in the country.
Sure.
They've been readied by the Democrat president.
Yes.
And that administration. So there should be no disagreement. We're just actually doing the thing that he said we were going to do by identifying them. So that's all. So, okay. That is Scattershoot, and we are so close, Lauren. Everything changes next week. You know that.
I do.
We have the big change coming next week, and we will be following it, obviously, right here on the Wilder Show podcast. We're at wildershow.com. Podcast at wildershow.com is the email address, podcast at wildershow.com. The podcasts drop Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central Time, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. Like, follow, rate, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you next time. da 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 da.